All right, hello everyone, and welcome to our lesson 3-1. In this one, we're talking about economic concepts. Now, there is a lot to cover in this, so I'm going to go fairly quickly, but let's go ahead and get started, okay? All right, so economics takes time to understand. It's not about money. It's more about human behavior and how we make choices. Economics, by definition, is the study of how individuals and societies make decisions about resources, production, distribution, exchange, and consumption of goods and services, given that those things are that we have unlimited and competing wants, and given the scarcity of the resources. Resources like these things up here. So as a little bit of an explanation, economics is generally considered to be a social science, but some disagree that it is a science as it lacks testable hypotheses and controlled experiments, plus there's political aspects to economics. But nevertheless, it is regarded as a social science because it uses scientific methods to build models and theories to understand and explain human behavior. So there is part of economics, there's something called microeconomics. This is the study of behavior and decision making in individuals and businesses in an economy. On the flip side, there's macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is the study of behavior, performance, structure, and decision making of the economy as a whole. So micro is the individual or the business, macro is the economy as a whole. All right, let's talk about something called a trade-off. Now, this is when you are choosing between two things that can't be done or had at the same time. So it's giving up something that you want in exchange for something else that you want, often as a compromise. Now, trade-offs come down to decisions, and some sources say that we make 70 decisions per day. Others say that we make 35,000 decisions. Either way, that's a lot of decisions. But when we have those decisions, we have alternatives that are in there. And when we make those decisions, we're choosing between those alternatives. So we have to look at what are the trade-offs. What shirt should I wear? What's the best route to work? What career should I have? Okay, these are all examples of possible trade-offs. So here's an example from literature, a trade-off example. Robert Frost, the author, he wrote something called The Road Not Taken, and he writes that two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled. He had to choose between two roads as he couldn't take both at the same time. So that's an example of a trade-off. Now, there is something called there is a trade-off like we talked about, but then there's also something called opportunity cost. So let's talk a little bit about that and give an example. So let's say you got enough money to buy either a bicycle or the latest iPhone. Now, choosing between the two is a trade-off, okay? It's either one or it's the other. That's a trade-off, okay? But if you choose the iPhone over the bicycle, then the bicycle becomes your opportunity cost, okay? So you could choose one or the other. That's the trade-off. It's one or the other. It's a trade-off. So if whichever one you choose, okay, the other one, that's your opportunity cost. So a trade-off is about making a choice between two things, whereas an opportunity cost is the cost of that trade-off. Okay. Let's look at another example. Okay, so you might decide to take job A. It's a 5-minute walk from your home. It pays $15 an hour. Or you got job B that it takes you 35 minutes to drive your car one way, but it pays you $20 an hour. Which do you choose? So you have to make a trade-off. In this case, you're declining the higher paying job because it's farther from your home, but then you're choosing the job A that's more convenient because it's closer. That's the trade-off. But what does this choice cost you? What is your opportunity cost? Well, your commute to work each way is 30 minutes or more, 35 minutes minus 5, okay, 30 minutes. Okay, could be more. So that's 1 hour a day of extra traveling time, right? 30 minutes times 2, that's an hour, okay, 30 minutes each way. So you reason that that's 1 hour per day more than that you're driving to and from work with job B, that you could be home or working extra hours at job A or doing something else. But if you work 8 hours per day and multiply that by the difference in the hourly wage of job A versus job B, okay, $20 minus 15, that's a difference of $5. That equates to $40 a day. All right, consider $5 the difference here, okay, times the 8 hours, that's $40. That's $40 per day in lost wages that you could have earned. However, you save an hour each day in travel time, and you save on gas and wear and tear on your car as well. So let's say the round trip miles to get to and from job B is 30 miles. And let's say it costs 55 cents per mile to operate your car, including gas and wear and tear on your car. Well, that equals 16.50. Okay, 55 times the 30. Okay, 55 cents per mile times the 30 miles, 16.50. So if we take the $40 that we had from the other part that we had minus the 16.50, that equals 23.50. So by not choosing job B, your opportunity cost is 23.50 a day. But you may decide to work an extra hour at job A, which pays you $15 an hour. Okay, so you're working the extra hour at job A instead of that driving time. So this reduces your opportunity cost to $8.50, 23 minus the 15. But now you're working an additional hour versus driving an hour to and from work. Question is that comes down to it is, which would you rather do? And that's what you've got to decide. Now, in an economy, there's three questions that all societies need to answer. What should be produced? How should it be produced? And for whom is it being produced? Now, to meet the needs of the people, a society must determine and answer these three questions. What are you going to produce? How are you going to produce it? And who are you producing it for? So the U.S. Has the system the US uses to make these decisions. Well, every company, every country, and every society goes about it a little differently. But in the United States, both private enterprise and the government are involved in making these decisions. So the two challenges that society faces when answering these questions comes down to resource allocation and scarcity. Resource allocation, scarcity. Now, resources are all of the components that are needed for production, including natural resources, labor, capital goods, and the expertise. And most of those resources, they are limited in supply. There isn't an infinite amount of them, and they aren't plentiful in every part of the world every second of the day. So again, you've got those natural resources. These are the materials and substances found in nature that are used for economic gain. Air, water, sun, fertile land, plants, timber, fossil fuels, minerals. And you've got labor, which is the workers who put in the work to build the products. That's your human resources. Your capital goods are the physical assets used to produce the goods and services, including machinery, equipment, buildings, tools. And then, of course, there's the expertise. This is the technical knowledge and the ability to successfully produce the items. But all those things are scarce. They have scarcity. Scarcity is the reality that people's wants always exceed the resources available to fulfill those wants. Now, what are economic wants? Let's change gears just a little bit. Economic wants are the desires for goods and services or tangible items that can be acquired, only be acquired by spending money. Items like a car, a haircut, a patent, a house, clothes, whatever. Those are all our economic wants. These economic wants are and then there's something called non-economic wants. Sorry, missed up a little bit there. But non-economic wants. These are your desires that don't require money to be obtained, like talking to a friend. Now, while all wants are generally unlimited, wants do change over time. Okay, shifting gears a little bit. Each thing has everything that's there, something's usefulness, and the degree to which wants are satisfied. This is called economic utility. And there are 5 types of economic utility. There's form utility, task utility, place utility, time utility, and possession utility. Okay, so 5 types of economic utility: form, task, place, time, and possession. So let's look at some types of economic utility examples. Form is situation where wood becomes more useful because you turn it into a table or a chair or a desk or whatever. The task relates to services, like a laundry service delivering to your home increases your task utility. Time, the economic utility of time. If you do woodworking or whatever, and you order tools online that also offer same-day delivery, then that adds to your time utility. Place, on the other hand, is being able to find those tools at a nearby store. That adds to your place utility. And possession, if you purchase the hammer, then the possession utility increases because you have possession of that hammer and you can actually do something with it. Now, in an economy, there is a flow. This flow keeps our economies moving. It involves production, distribution, exchange, and consumption. And as consumers, we all consume. We are all wanting to get something. And distribution is where we categorize, sort, and transport goods to all of the final destinations as efficiently and inexpensively as carefully as possible. So you've got the producers who make the products. They pay the workers the wages to who in turn consume more goods and services. Okay, we get paid for doing a job. We have money in our pocket. We can go out and we can consume more goods and services. Distribution, the next part in the flow, that's the demand for products. That informs the producers of how much to make or the supply. Exchange, again, this is part of the flow. This is where we, as consumers, we are exchanging money for goods and services that are being distributed to us. And again, finally, there is us as consumers. These are the ones who use the product, we use the service. Their consumers are also called the final user. But now what happens if inflation occurs? Now, inflation is a general increase in prices. Okay, this is where your prices go up. Okay, and we do something called economize. And economize is where we reduce our spending in order to save money. Now, just as a side note, the opposite of inflation is deflation. That's where prices go down. But in this case, we're talking about inflation, prices going up. When those prices go up and we decide to reduce our spending in order to save money, well, we reduce what we exchange for the products. We don't spend as much. We don't put that money out there into the economy to buy something. Well, then that ends up with a reduction in what gets distributed. And of course, since things aren't being distributed, the items being produced, the products, that reduces what's being produced. Now, then producers, though, might reduce their prices to try to motivate consumers to buy more. And so then they regain their previous sales levels. So this is all a circle right here. Okay, all of these different things can happen. So a lot of it comes down to economics and human behavior, because economics has all these interrelated variables that are involved that affect each other. And economists, they spend their careers, their lives studying this economic behavior so that they can try to predict the outcomes from the consumers. At its core, economics is about studying human behavior, which can be fun to do. Because the question is why do we behave the way we do? Why do we buy the things that we do? Why do we make the choices that we do? All of that is economics and human behavior is all related because economics is that study of human behavior. All right, so that is our lesson 3-3 on basic economic concepts.